Yep. Looks like it. Okay. All right, let's go. Hello, welcome back. I want to be on mic. I'm very loud, but still. I want to be on the mic. All right, we've lost a few people. Hello. We've lost a few people I can see, which is a shame because this is the all singing, all dancing part of the day. What we have in front of you here are the facilitators and note takers from each group. We're each going to take 3 minutes. I'm looking at you. 3 minutes to present about what our group came up with, and then we're going to hand over to you to ask questions, give commentary. Megan and I will do the wrap-up, and we'll finish promptly at 5 when it will be go-home/wine time. So I'm going to go first because our group was about best practice. What examples of best practice have delivered results and could be extended more widely across the industry? We came up with a few specific examples of what's being done well in our own industry and in others, and then we came up with some more general examples. So some specific examples were SBS, who one member of our group was working there and others had worked there, reported that they had a preschool on site, carer leave, free counselling, a free gym for employees, and that the result of that was the retention of good people, a lot of loyalty, particularly among older women, and increased happiness and well-being. We talked about this incredible animation company that insisted on an 8-hour day. Stop it. We talked about a couple of the big four organisations, PwC in particular, which is one we know quite well, who've introduced a range of different kinds of inclusion quotas. KPMG has done so as well. Inclusion meaning not just people from diverse linguistic backgrounds or disability, but inclusion of people who are carers and parents. We also reflected on the organisations that have created a gender quota. Statistically, there's a lot of evidence to suggest that if you make a work culture good for women, it becomes good for everybody. And as more women are being brought into organisations that have traditionally been male-led, then that organisation has to come up with scenarios to make those women's lives easier, which will, of course, by natural extension include childcare or carers leave or whatever it might be. We also talked about PwC bringing in transparency around their wages. PwC now has entirely transparent wages from the mailroom to the CEO, and we discussed the fact that that brings up in a transparency of culture. A few of us in our room talked about how we have contracts that prevent us from telling other people what we get paid, which just continues this culture of secrecy in the screen industry, which means that there's a whole lot of stuff we're not talking about. And the more we're not talking about what we need as parents and carers, the more we can be exploited as a result. We had a few other things as well, but one of our big uprisings was about tax deductibility, and we decided that like getting a personal assistant, childcare should be a tax deduction for freelancers and self-employed people, or there should be some sort of salary sacrifice as part of a contract package. That sound about right? Okay, great. So can the person from Group 2 who's going to do the talking, can you come up here and do the talking, please, Doll? Or you can stay there if the mic's on. Is the mic's on?
Is the mic on?
Yeah, the mic's on, so you can stay there.
Thank you. Hi. Hi. Group 2. We wanted to see what bold actions could organisations and employees take to create change. So there was a lot of discussion, particularly on set, and pushing working hours on set and making sure that they are 8 hours instead of this 10-hour 45, and which rolls into 12 hours, which actually rolls into 13. Perhaps have childcare on set, but not just a childcare or a creche on set, flexible childcare, because long hours, long days, sometimes childcare is required in the evenings if it's a night shoot. We talked about embracing new technologies to opening workspaces as well. So often we're talking about having our children, putting them somewhere or having them with us. but trying to open workspaces so there's more opportunities to work at home or from the space that you're in. And it was, mentioned that it's probably easier for pre-production than post-production, maybe not so much on set, but, maybe there's some flexibilities around some stuff there that we could look into. Be bold. Change the production schedule. So have longer shoots, go for longer, and have a more sustainable kind of career because you're shooting for longer as well. But that would be going to shorter work days as well. We talked about including in the code of conduct we have a sexual harassment policy, we have a code of conduct that's usually on set or in businesses or wherever you work, but also have an awareness policy around women who are pregnant, women who are breastfeeding, or carers and their needs, and to make sure that there's no bias against them as well, and maybe put that into a code somewhere, somehow, so people have to abide by it, or at least be aware of it, that it's there. Put in some rewards and incentives for people that do support people returning from work, from gaps in their careers, either financial incentives that was even suggested, or maybe we have awards at the end of the year about who was the best at supplying or instigating change in their production house, a broadcaster, whoever. I think that was it. Oh, children on set. Why not?
Yeah, good idea.
I think that's better. And then we talked about how organisations and employers could be encouraged to take bold action, who we felt wasn't in the room, who we should be talking to. Line producers. It was mentioned today, childcare and creches are capable. So getting those line items in budgets and making sure the line producers know that that's something that could go in there. And often it's the first thing to go, but put pressure on them to try and keep it and squeeze budgets elsewhere. Broadcasters, for them to start setting a very good example on how they can manage this. I know SBS has a great policies, but it's also not just in their corporate environment, in the productions that they commission as well, and pushing it out, pushing the boat further a little bit out that way. Unions, having some of the unions on board in the room. Let's get them to force the hours on set. Disability advocates as well. We need to probably get them a little bit more on board. Men.
Yeah, we had that conversation too. We had a man now.
Oh, I see.
But we didn't have a patriarch one.
Yeah, so that's kind of where we got to. I think that was about it, wasn't it, Court?
We had a few eureka moments
That's right.
as well, and one of them is that for later?
No,
Oh.
a eureka moment.
A eureka moment, one of them was that childcare was capable, because you could hear a few people in the room kind of gasp at that. So also about your employee rights, the Parents at Work organisation, just knowing that you have more rights to exploit when you're negotiating carers leave or maternity leave, and also just hearing champions of change like Courtney announcing doing it differently, kind of inspired some of us to think we've got the capability to do things differently in your own kingdom, as one of us said. Yeah,
Thank you. That's about it.
Fantastic. Okay, group 3, benefits, access and inclusion.
I think we had the most exciting one, because it's all about the sales, isn't it? Really interestingly, that we talked about the shorter working hours, and what would the benefits of the shorter working hours be. We've seen that when that does happen, an 8-hour day, that crew are happier and more productive, and meetings in pre-production are more conducive to, what's the word we used? Commitments being made and efficiencies. But a great one was that it could also reduce the risk of accidents, so that there's OH&S benefits. In terms of access, inclusion on screen, there's obviously benefits of reflecting our culture and the power that has to decrease racism and increase tolerance, but also has the potential to increase audiences. There's obviously been a lot of studies about people wanting to see themselves on screen, and maybe there's an audience out there that people don't even know exist yet. And then we talked a little bit about the benefits of experienced people coming back after having children, or trying to stop people, prevent people who are thinking about having children just leaving the industry altogether, and recognising that those people have a depth of experience, of flexibility and ability to work very well. The barriers to achieving the access and inclusion in the screen industry. Obviously, the budgets being squeezed means it's likely that 8 hours will be pushed back on, and we can't afford to do an 8-hour-a-day 5-week shoot. We'll do a 10-hour-a-day 4-week shoot. I don't know whether there's any data that exists that shows the cost difference of doing that. We recognise that we need the leaders of the industry to acknowledge diversity. It's not a joke or a punchline at an awards ceremony. And that the freelance world means that a lot of full-time employee benefits do not apply, and there's a lack of clarity around what a freelance or a contract worker is entitled to. And then we also had the 1 to 2 recommendations to brainstorm some possible solutions. We'd love to see the SAFC programs rolled out nationally, or potentially your film will not get funded unless. We'd also love to see a festival or industry award that recognises best practice. And we'd love to see more visual proof. So at the Actors last night, there were 2 pregnant producers up on stage, and just seeing that makes it more real.
That's fantastic. Thank you. So Group 4, lucky last, barriers and solutions.
So we were Group 4. So ours was, what are the major barriers to creating sustainable change, and how can they be removed? And it was a great conversation. It was quite emotional, our group, and we looked at the time and duration of shoots and the lack of flexibility in setting schedules, that they're set in stone. And in terms of an attitude and a value to what people bring to the set, that the under the line roles and crew are as important and valuable to the set and the production as the above the line crew. And to look at the value you add as being a parent, rather than how that inhibits your contribution to the workplace. And just reframing the language around that, like around what can you contribute rather than what can't you do, what hours what can't you deliver on. And the notion that it's a privilege to work in this industry, that you should just feel yourself lucky, and there's 25 other females behind you that would take that job or work for free. It's an industry that's often work for free for your CV, for your show reel, to get experience and contacts, rather than, well, no, you're not going to get a hairdresser to cut hair or a builder to build you a house and not pay them because it looks good on their CV. I think we need to reframe that. And yeah, that there's always someone waiting to take your place. Solutions that we looked at was around a top-down change of culture. It was really refreshing to have Neil here as a CEO of an organisation who does leave work at 3:30 to go to his kids' pantomime and brings the kids to work, because that changes how the workplace is when leadership is on board. A culture of respect and values, that each production is to have a core values statement. We talked about when you put in your applications for funding, and you have to put in your disability inclusion action plan and your environmental impact statement and other statements that you have to put in to address different aspects of your application, that there should be a core value. What is the core value on the set that you're going to bring? And have those toolbox talks when the production starts about the value on the set and about respecting people's having work-life balance. realistic hours around job share, part-time, flexible, restricting to an 8-hour day on set. Looking at around parenting and carers as an access issue, Lucy coined that we look at dietary requirements is really vital. We want to know, like, do you have any allergies? But we don't really look at and reframe your requirements in terms of, do you need to leave work at 3:30 to get back because the childcare closes at 6 and you're going to get charged $15 for every 5 minutes that you're late, or they're going to shut for the day and there's going to be no one to pick you up. That we need to reframe that access is as important as dietary requirements. And the language that we reframe it and look at a social model where we don't stop talking about limitations and reframe it to what parents and carers can do and how they can contribute. A solution was when we looked at where is a forum that you can call out unfair practices or applaud positive case studies, was accessing the SDIN, the Screen Diversity and Inclusion Network, and showcasing to them things that are really good, as well as calling out things that aren't so good. And in terms of promoting culture of respect for all roles on set and seeing how important they are, to move the credits to the front of the film. So that...
They have to watch the whole thing.
Yeah, they have to watch the whole thing. And the industry, because, you know, if you're the last one left, everyone's left the cinema and the cleaners are coming in and but I did that. It was at the beginning. Maybe they might...
That was a good idea.
Yeah, they could change it. Yeah, so did you want me to... That's a no. No?
I think it came up quite a bit.
I think there was a lot of crossover across the groups because there are some things that I didn't mention that have popped up in others. So clearly we're all on the right track now. We just have to go out and change the world. Hey. Let's give ourselves a round of applause, everyone, for that fantastic contribution. Now, we've only got 10 minutes left, but what Megan and I really wanted to do with the last remaining moments was just on the sheet that you were all given, there was a question that you were all asked, which is, what would you like to share that you're going to personally do to support yourself or to someone else in their caring and parental duties? We really wanted to make sure that we weren't just using today as an opportunity to point fingers at other people and say this is what you should do to make everybody's life better. We also all need to take personal responsibility for what we are going to do, whether that is change the culture in the organisation that you work for or run, in my case, or if you're a single mum freelancing, are you going to make friends with another single mum who's freelancing so you can share childcare with each other? Can I get the mic people to mic? Thank you, guys. Would anyone like to contribute what they are going to personally do to support themselves or to support someone else in their parenting and caring duties? I can wait. Yay, here we go. Someone down here. Thank you for being brave enough to go first.
Hi, I'm actually not a parent, but I did have a comment from a friend of mine who is a parent, and it was more about communication and feeling that she's not alone, that she's not the only one to think about childcare, that we all have to think about it. And I think if we communicate to each other about wanting to do things like that, I think that's a great starting point.
So that's an action, is to be more communicative and transparent with each other about that. Great. Anyone else want to contribute? There's another hand up the back.
I was really impressed by the abracadabra on-site childcare. So while that was happening, I texted my husband, who's a national director of a company, and said you should have childcare on-site at your office, and this company runs it, and he phoned me before to say he's considering it.
Yes.
So that doesn't help me yet. It might if he takes the kids to work, but so I was inspired.
Fantastic. Thank you for doing that. We really appreciate it. Over here.
I do sign off on budgets at a broadcaster, and I'm going to actually pay attention to childcare and maybe interrogate it and have those conversations with producers, because I've just realised I am responsible.
That's fantastic.
I didn't realise I was.
Thank you so much for that. Diana down the front.
Well, I'm a producer, so I'll be taking this on when I look at my own shoots and my own work, but I also think I'll be challenging some people higher up in what they can do and really putting some information and resources in front of them and kind of demanding that they actually look at it and consider the options.
Fantastic. Thank you. One more here, Lucy, and then Kat.
I'm actually just going to make my children more visible. I'm just going to start taking
Oh,
them to
good
things.
on you, doll. Yeah, great idea. Absolutely. Thank you.
I've been thinking about this for a while, so there are two things that I've already started doing. One is I always talk about my children at work, always, and quite often there are other people who have been hiding theirs too, so, you know, and I've been very lucky that once you start talking, you realise that, you know, most of the producers have kids, and whether they're women or men, you know, and I find that that dialogue has freed everybody up. And the other thing I've done is I've done some guest lectures at Afters, and I talk about these issues and try and inspire the next generation of women to kind of, make it happen and hope that the change, you know, has happened for them. So.
Thank you, Kat. That's amazing. Another person up the back. Oh, you're getting a pincer move. Look out. See who can get there first. Attack.
Thanks. I'll be quick so everyone can go home and pick up their kids. I was just thinking of two things. I'm a director, and what I want to do is not only advocate for myself, but advocate for particularly below the line crew who feel quite powerless and quite voiceless, that they can be replaced easily. They feel that. So I would always like to, on my own sets as I move through, make it a place where everyone is allowed to have their say and feel included in this discussion. The other thing is I'm 4.5 months pregnant and I was hiding it, and I wasn't talking about it publicly. I wasn't making announcements because I was scared, and I'm going to make a public announcement, I think, after
Congratulations.
today. So thank you.
Yeah, you actually came out of the baby closet. Hooray! And we love and support you. All right, thank you so much. I actually am feeling a little bit overwhelmed by that. I'm having a moment, Megan. You might have to come up and do your bit so I can just go over here and have a little squiffy cry behind the thing. Although, let's just be fair, a squiffy cry is always a good thing at work, I think. So I would like to ask Megan to come back up to help wrap up. Thank you.
So I'm going to talk really fast because we should finish at 5 so people can go pick up their kids. Thank you all for coming today, and for those who tuned in. I think this is a really important conversation. This is just the start of the conversation. And next year, once you've all had a break, we want to pick this back up and we want to push so that we do get meaningful change and we're not having this conversation in 30 years' time. We have the ability and the responsibility to affect cultural change by the stories that we tell on our screens. And if we're not enabling these people, these carers, to be able to tell those stories, then how can we affect the greater culture? So we have a lot of power that we have, and I think that it's time for us to use it. So very quickly, what Raising WIFT Australia and Raising Films will be doing over the next year. So following on from this forum, we'll be issuing a forum report sometime between early to mid next year, so probably around April, May. All of the feedback that you guys have provided during the roundtables, we'll also have an online form that Monica mentioned earlier on our WIFT Australia website from tomorrow. That'll be open until the 10th of February. And from mid next week, we'll also have all the videos from today up. So if you only caught some of it, or you know some people who you think would give us some valuable information, then point them to the website on Wednesday, because we really do want to hear from you. Also, we've got the Making It Possible pilot program that Monica is our facilitator for. So tomorrow we've got our Sydney Making It Possible pilot program. It's a one-day course for women who are parents or carers who have been kind of stuck out of the industry after having caring responsibilities, or perhaps they're in the industry but finding it difficult to continue to go up in their career. Our next ones next year is Byron Bay, Dubbo and Bega. So if you're in those regions or nearby, we also have travel grants. So if you're, a few hours away from those regions, check out WIFT Australia at Facebook. What I do, though, want to say about those initiatives is we believe it's really important right now. Carers are up against it, and we're trying to provide tools for them to navigate it. But really, that's a stopgap approach. We need cultural change. These one-day workshops are good for the short term, but we need more than that. And I just want to tell you a little bit about WIFT Australia. We're a not-for-profit organisation dedicated to achieving gender equality in the Australian screen industry through research, advocacy, education and support for female-identifying screen industry. Obviously, Raising Films is bigger than that and it's broader than that, but what we are is we're a predominantly volunteer-run organisation. So if you're not a member, we would love you to join. All genders can join. Female-identifying members can be full if you're in the screen industry. If you are not, then you can join as a supporter. So I do encourage you to join, or if you'd like to make a tax-deductible donation, that would be very thankful. I also just want to very quickly thank a whole lot of people who I didn't in the first part, so I'm going to say this very, very quickly. I think I've got 15 seconds left. I want to thank the survey report team. So without this data, we could not be having this conversation. So Professor Deb Verhoeven, Dr. Cherie Gregory, Margaret McHugh and Erin Jolie, who were the main team behind it. I also wanted to thank Grania Brunsden and Amelia O'Carra-Reid from Create New South Wales, who put in that initial funding for Raising Films to be launched and kicked us off. Also Courtney Gibson from SAFC, who really has put her money where her mouth is with all of these initiatives. Neil Peplow, Georgie McLean and Alicia Emery and the events team, including Alan, Calvin, Fiona, all the rest of them, who've generously provided so much support today. Hope Dixon-Leach, Laura Giles, So Maya and the team from Raising Films in the UK, who all of this has been inspired by. Obviously, all our facilitators and note takers today, really, really thank you for leading the conversation. Our amazing MC, Monica Davidson, very thankful for you to be able to take today in your capable hands. I also want to thank Tracy Colburn-Matchett, who's our Raising Films project manager. So she's in charge of everything, not everything, we won't burden you with that, but she's our main point of contact. Raising Films Australia at wifnewsouthwales.org.au if you need to get in contact with her. And Diana Fisk, our new WIFT Australia administrator, thank you very much. She's come on board recently and has made a huge difference. And of course, the board of WIFT New South Wales and WIFT Australia, who have all, a lot of them are here today, or helping in all of our satellite locations. Very, very thankful that you're helping us to spread the word across Australia, and we're very thankful that WIFT Australia now has banded together to create national solutions. So that is it. I think I've got everything. Thank you again, everybody, and good night.
That was great. That was your Oscar speech. You got 15 seconds. The band played you off. Thank you so much for coming, everybody. We really appreciate everything you've contributed today, and go forth and make change. Thank you. Thank you, Megan. Oh yes, Megan's movie Crushed is screening on Channel 10 on 10 Box on Sunday night. Yeah, so that's what you're doing on Sunday. Okay, thank you.